welcome everybody. My name is Chris Hathaway. I'm an account director in Oracle's Cloud Platform division, and I'm excited to be hosting today's Customer Spotlight. This is featuring one of my favorite customers, and that's Aon. I've been fortunate to be working with Aon over the last year in which they've transformed their approach to analytics. And we're really pleased to bring you their story of business agility and resilience. And this is something that's hopefully will resonate with us all in these complicated times. Aon's a global leader in financial services with 50,000 employees in 120 countries. Their primary focus is in risk brokerage. And like many businesses, they've sought ways to better engage customers and transform into a more modern services company. But before we bring in our guests, I'd like to take a quick poll. So, thinking about business transformation, why do you think most companies commit to transformation in 2020? Is it to seize a new opportunity or market that no one's already claimed? Is it to adapt to competitive pressures or protect a market that's already been claimed? Or survive through the current market pressures? Right, let's have a look at those results. So, interesting. So most people online are thinking that they're adapting to new competitive pressures and protecting a market that's already claimed. And I think this is pretty consistent actually with some of the similar reviews that we've done on some of these previous sessions. So interesting, things seem to be consistent there. Okay, anyway, without further ado, I would like to introduce our guests today from Aon. So a very warm welcome, ladies. It's a pleasure to have you here. Tiffany, would you like to advise our audience of all your roles at Aon and the landscape that you work within?
Yes, hello everybody. My name is Tiffany Zadeh. I am the CIO of two portfolios here at Aon. One is Growth Enablement, and the other is North America IT. I would like to introduce two other members of my team. I will first introduce Lisbeth Mulder. She's the global reporting lead. She manages all of our sales analytics and reporting. And Nancy Ancone, she is our portfolio leader for marketing automation technology. Together, they're going to help me explain the journey that Aon has been going through over the past several years. So for those of you who are not familiar with Aon, we are basically a global professional services firm, but we grew up as risk brokers. Most people probably would identify Aon as a risk brokerage first, but then over the years, we added the solutions and services that support retirement and health. And now you can see on the slide the type of firm that we have become. We operate in over 120 countries, and we have over 50,000 employees worldwide. But what are we trying to do at Aon? Well, over the years, Aon grew by acquisition. So through the 1990s, we had over 400 acquisitions, and we integrated none of them. That worked for a while. But in the early 2000s, it became very apparent that that cost structure was going to become unbearable. And so over time, a lot of factors, of course, came into play. But over time, it started a maturity of Aon towards a more unified and centralized company. The slide I'm showing you here, though, is to highlight how did we spearhead that or drive that? And of course, again, maturity like this and transformations like this take time. But one of the biggest programs that we did to spearhead that behavior was our CRM United program. Our CRM United program was basically taking very many CRM tools from around Aon, and again, by growing through that type of acquisition, you can imagine how many CRM tools we had at play, and to slowly consolidate them down and come to close to one. We are now close to one. And the slide I'm showing you shows the guiding principles that we were living by when we took all of those CRM platforms and combined them into one, because it was very important that we kept our sights on the goal, which was to benefit the users of the system as well as management. But the users have to have a benefit into a consolidated, unified strategy. And we wanted to automate as much as we possibly could for the end user because we need to make their lives as simple in the day-to-day so that they can focus on growth. You can see again, the underpinning of that was one instance of CRM. And again, we haven't gotten to one instance across the entire company, but 95% of our company is now running on one instance. And we are now going to focus, and we'll talk a little bit more about this later, into how we take the power that we have now found in one tool and extrapolate that downstream to our other platforms and our other processes. So that is the journey we are on.
Great, thank you. Thanks for that background. Maybe let's dive into that a little bit deeper. Can you share with us what you went through to get to where you are now today?
Yes, I can. It was tough. It was tough. And there's some Aon folks on the phone today, Heather Schreiber being one of them, that can attest to how tough this was. In bringing ourselves together as an Aon United company, we focused on process first and foremost. And there's maybe a conversation we'll get into later about how do transformations take place. Transformations take place not through technology first. Transformations take place with process first. And so we focused on process for the first 4 months of a year-long program. We did not have a lot of time to do this for other licensing reasons. And so we spent a lot of time getting a lot of business leadership into a room, virtual rooms, because we were across 85 countries, talking about process. And once we did that, we finally got ourselves to a standardized, fairly standardized, I'm not going to say that we're standardized exactly, but a fairly standardized approach to sales globally, which is key if you are going to then run your sales processes off of one platform. It's also key if you're going to try to run global sales KPIs that make any sense across all of those regions and solution lines. So we started with process, followed with technology. Of course, we built to support those processes. Now, the other component to this is the data. Everyone likes to focus on the functionality because it's pretty and it looks great on the screen, but it only works if you've got good data to run it. And data is key, and data is hard, and data is the thing that will probably stop most transformations from being successful. We had an entire team, not a big team, a small but mighty team of data stewards who also took up the charge to synthesize our data down from, again, all those CRM instances that we had globally. We took it and we had to synthesize all that data down. So we had, again, 6 instances that went to 1. That resulted in 1.3 million accounts going to 600 or 500,000 accounts at the time. And in doing that, we mastered those accounts. It's very key. The account data has to be clean. It has to be valid. If people lose trust in the data of this system or any system, then you've lost your users. So again, this is just a highlight of what we went through, but it was tough. It was challenging, but it was successful.
Fantastic, fantastic. Perhaps you can have a look on into your centralized sales reporting and analytics side. Is there an area of that we might want to focus in on?
Yeah, it's me to talk about that. So like Tiffany said, going from multiple instances into one instance, that has implications also on reporting. So before we went into one instance, one sales cloud, we had our data in different tools, in different, maybe the same tool, but in different instances. So it was difficult to get a unified and a uniform outlook on your data and on your pipeline. It was really difficult to assemble that. It involved a lot of manual intervention. So the first step to centralize all that information in one instance was really a great step. It opened up a room to do reporting across our different solution lines and regions. And what we also have done is to have a look at our sales processes to make sure they matched together, so we were able to report on them. So there were, of course, differences, and that is one of the topics we were discussing before we went live in those 4 months, what Tiffany is talking about. So currently we have about 11,000 users, and those 11,000 users, they put information in the system. They also want to get some out of it. So that's the key with reporting. So we started off with a very centralized approach. We started with the tool that comes with Sales Cloud, which is OTBI, Oracle Transactional Business Intelligence tool. And we learned that it was a difficult tool to use for a normal user. So if someone is used to Excel and doing reporting, it was a difficult tool. So we had a couple of people were able to do that. So we had a very centralized approach. We had a couple of dashboards, and we sort of cloned them and applied them to other user groups as well. So it was sort of, we had one version of the truth, but it was also a sort of one-size-fits-all approach on dashboards. And we came to learn that that's not the most optimal approach, because a lot of people, they find export button on their dashboards and they exported the data and went on doing their stuff in Excel and other tools. So we were trying to centralize it, but that's to a certain extent that didn't work out, because it was too rigid, it was too difficult, the tool was a little bit clunky. And then we were also missing confidential deals, and I can explain what I mean by that. So in our tool, people can have a confidential deal, which is confidential and no one else can see that. But then again, if you want to have view on your pipeline, you want to include the amount. You want to know, okay, what's coming towards you in this year or next year. So you don't need to see what the actual confidential deal is, like the account, but you like to know, okay, is it 500,000? Is it 1,000? You want to take that into account. So that was missing. And then another part was as well that we have many countries, like 120. We also have 120 currencies. And so people were used to doing reports in their local currency, like Australian dollars, US dollars, but then going from one currency to the other, that was really difficult. So that was our first stage. And then what we are now, I see it as like a 2-stage rocket. That was the first stage. The second stage is to give more power to our users. So the ability to self-service, to have more flexibility in dashboards and reporting, and also to get a multi-source approach, so we can link it to other sources as well. And one of those examples is that we link it now to our Eloqua data. Well, there's quite a long list we have solved with using Oracle Analytics Cloud and the Autonomous Data Warehouse. So we have multi-currency now. We have confidential deals, but we mask the details. You see the amount, but they're still secured. One of the disadvantages was as well that we were querying a lot of data in our Sales Cloud OTBI, and that was slowing down the performance. So we were sort of not using the tool in a proper way. So that's all better now. yeah, so that's giving us the opportunity to save hours instead of exporting, doing VLOOKUPs, etc. It's easier to build that in Analytics Cloud.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Elizabeth. I love the idea that, yeah, definitely the export button is sometimes the most used feature, and I think many of our audience will probably agree with that. Well, I mean, we're really pleased to be working with Aon on many of these areas that help power your business, and there's obviously the CX solutions, the sales and marketing solutions, the autonomous database and analytics you've discussed. Now, I guess you're all here today because our listeners are very interested in the work you do as it pertains particularly to customer experience. And I'd like to ask you a couple of questions on this. Maybe, firstly, what does that term customer experience mean to Aon? And also perhaps more personally, how has your customer engagement evolved over the years in context of perhaps both your internal and external customers, particularly through your sales and marketing channels?
Yeah, thank you. I'll take that one. Customer experience, just as you said, there's an internal and external definition to that for us. Our internal customer base, primarily in this portfolio, are the sales facing individuals, the people that we want out there growing our business. We don't make it easy for them, I'll be honest. I mean, as Aon, again, through all those acquisitions, through all that technology, they had 16 different places to go to do their job. That is not efficient. That makes people frustrated. That does not help them sell. So the first thing we think about when we think about internal customer experience is how do we help people do their job in one place? We're not there yet. It's a journey, but Aon Connect, which is our CRM tool, that is the name that actually won through a naming contest. They can now go to one place and find most of the information they need to know about a client. They can know what other solution lines are doing around that client. They know who to contact in those solution lines. They know what specialties are involved. They know who to contact in those specialties. They know how the client rated us, on our client satisfaction surveys. So they know the client revenue. It's all in one place. If they need to make a bid request because of an RFP situation, they can make that request from the CRM tool. So we're trying really hard to improve the customer experience from that salesperson's perspective. And again, it's all about ease of use and efficiency of time. From an external customer perspective, well, they see it too, because it was not unheard of, and I'm not going to pretend it still doesn't happen, but it was not unheard of for 3 different solution lines from Aon to show up at the same customer in the same week and not know that the others had been there before them. We are now have the technology to alleviate doing that again. So people do know, if the tools are used correctly, they do know who is visiting our client, when they're visiting them, what they're talking to them about, so that we, Aon, come towards our clients in a much more unified fashion, which can only be a big benefit to a client. So those are our two ways we look at customer experience, at least in this journey.
Thank you. And what would you say was the turning point, perhaps, that drove Aon's digital CX transformation?
Oh dear. Well, a little bit what I touched on earlier. And I think there's a slide on this one. Yeah, thank you. What drove it was cost and inconsistency and 3 people showing up to the client at the same time. Like that, we got to solve for that. So this is how we solve for that. And we're still solving. But again, we started with Aon Connect because it is the central point for salespeople. And like I mentioned earlier, we took all those instances, most of them were Salesforce instances, and we combined them together into one Oracle instance. So it's the centralization and standardization of process and then putting it all in one place. So what drove it was we just weren't acting like one company. And so that was the linchpin that really helped drive the other things that you see here. Then we moved on to marketing automation. Eloqua is our marketing automation tool. That is where we send the bulk of our email communications to everyone, clients, prospects, Aon colleagues, sometimes employees of clients. But we had, again, a plethora of marketing automation tools, and we have been slowly turning them off and centralizing into a core Eloqua platform. That is where a lot of our cost savings are coming from. It's not only savings in terms of time, it's hard dollar savings because we're turning off systems and centralizing into one. That also allows you to centralize the expertise. We've got, under Nancy, we've got a core team of experts that run Eloqua. Eloqua is a great tool, full of functionality, but it is not easy. And if you don't know what you're doing in there, you could accidentally send a marketing campaign that you might not have meant to send. So the point in the Eloqua space is to let the marketers focus on marketing and let us as marketing technology focus on centralization of expertise. And in this case, that's around Eloqua. Finally, OAC, as Elizabeth just mentioned, we now have all the data within Aon Connect and within Eloqua that we can use OAC to now pull in insight. The other thing that's allowed us to do is, you can see we also have a plethora of reporting tools, and this probably doesn't even get to half of them, that over time we will shut down and we will centralize again into reporting. I like to use this analogy. In our older days, when everyone was more decentralized on reporting, we had 10,000 reports created and none of them were right. None of them were correct, because there's so much you need to understand about the data models. You need to understand what you're trying to report on, first of all, but then what's the right data to pull out of those systems to actually report on what you think you're trying to report on. And that, again, when you centralize some of that into a core group of experts, you get far better results.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of people of the audience would agree with that. I mean, Aon Connect is really core to what you've been doing here. Is there anything more you'd like to tell us about that and the impact to your business?
Well, yeah, it's driven a behavior change. It's driven a culture change. I'm hearing conversations take place today that I would have never dreamed about 5 years ago. I've been at this company 18 years. We have always been this vision has been there a long time, but I feel like we are now realizing it, and collaboration is high, cross-selling is high. And again, there is a collaborative nature now that has taken over that is awesome. I mean, it is just purely awesome. It's so fun to see. It's so fun to work within when you have people coming to the table, putting their political agendas aside and trying to do the right thing for the company. It's been great. And then, of course, all of that enables amazing analytics. When you have a culture like that and you start to gather that kind of data, you have analytics that, honestly, for the first time, we can provide insights with the push of a button across all of our regions, all of our solution lines that we have never, ever been able to do before.
That's great. Thanks. I love the focus on collaboration. That really is key, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we know from that earlier poll that we did that there's a number of attendees that are perhaps either in a transformation right now or maybe planning to transform in the next few years. Current market conditions are probably accelerating the need for change and indeed the willingness for many businesses to change. I'd like to ask you, maybe from each of your perspectives, what advice do you have for those business leaders out there listening if they're considering a business transformation like yours?
Sure. I'll go first and then I'll turn it over. Very quickly, a few things. First of all, you must have strong and unwavering leadership support, strong leadership. Times get tough in these conversations. People hold on to the past. They hold on to how they've been doing things. They hold on to what they perceive as control. And you've got to have strong leaders that are willing to break those those obstacles to get through some of this. You need to focus on the process first. I mentioned that earlier. Minimize your scope. Just minimize your scope as much as you can, but still be meaningful. we did way too much at one time. Looking back, there were things we could have probably cut out and handled later. Minimize your scope and invest in change management. Mm-hmm. Do not shortchange the money and the people that you need for change management. Nancy, I'll go to you. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you, Tiffany. And I would like to add that, don't be afraid to make decisions, because sometimes you just go around and around and around in conversations, but then, somebody needs to make a decision, and just don't be afraid of doing that, and then move forward with that. It doesn't mean that you cannot change along the way, but there needs to be, an initial decision. And the other point I would like to add is also try to build your own team of experts. What I see happening a lot is that we bring in external experts, they then go away, and it's difficult to then pick it up. So try from the beginning to build your own team of experts. And centralize tools as much as possible. Like if you have multiple tools that do the same thing, it would be great if you can just move forward with one and the same tool across everything, which is not easy, but that is really a good way to move forward. Lisbeth, anything you want to add there?
It's absolutely. I just wanted to talk about that tool. Like you said, I want to say stick to a tool. So what I see is that you pick a tool, it looks nice, and then some other tool comes along, and oh, that looks also nice, that looks better. So people start to hop off tools. I think every tool can do what you want. So basically, but then they all drive on the data, and I think don't forget that your data need to be. That's the source for everything. So don't forget data quality, to pay attention on that.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Perhaps I guess coming on to data and the tools. I mean, you already described how with your first rollout you made good progress. You used the embedded reporting that was available within Aon Connect, and then you started to outgrow that those sort of operational reporting capabilities to deliver some more sophisticated analytics, perhaps some easier to use for some of your user base. Maybe you could describe how you went about determining maybe the right way to satisfy these analytics needs, and you've talked about the products you selected. How did you go about that?
So what we have done, so we heard from people, from users, you hear when they complain, but you might not hear when they are satisfied or are happy with it. So we did a survey last year, a very extensive survey about reporting, and I think that was the basis for a change. And that has led to a strategic discussion. It was more like a strategic choice than we looked at products or tools. So we took we decided that we need to get a more differentiated approach. So not the one size fits all. We have 4 main user groups, and they all have their own specific needs, and so what we've done for each of those groups, we decided what path we would want to take. So most of our users are standard users, sales people, the people who are put the information into the tool, basically. So what they want is to look at their own data, have very actionable data. So what we want, we don't want them to have to do a lot of clicking around the tool to find the data. So we reviewed our infolets, that's what it's called. There are small cards. We reviewed them and put them on the homepage, so it's easier accessible. They are just closer to their own data. That same goes for their managers. But then we had a much more demanding group, which are the sales target managers and sales operations managers. And they, because of our security model, they were looking at all data. So they found it difficult to apply filters to find what they want, or it was too much data and it took much time to render. So, and that's where we basically decided to have another tool. But the question was, do we stay close to what we have now, to our tool, or do we go to a new tool? And so it was more a strategic decision than looking at all the tools and having presentations of the tools. So we decided to stay close and using OAC, Oracle Analytics Cloud, and Autonomous Data Warehouse, which because Autonomous Data Warehouse can also be used for our other plans in the future. So those are the considerations when we moved across to.
Yeah, thank you. Well, yeah, as you say, I suppose Analytics Cloud, that's the platform that sort of spans all the Oracle applications and potentially other systems that can help your organization ask questions of any data from maybe any of these environments and even on any device. And the Autonomous Database, that's our self-driving database, reduces the kind of effort and the risk of errors, automates a lot of tasks, that kind of helps you day to day to get best experience. Can you share a bit more about how you managed the analytics previously, perhaps, and then how these solutions have helped you in that way?
Yeah, so before we had this approach, the export button, like I said, people were spending a lot of time exporting. And so the thing about that is it costs a lot of time, but it's also difficult to reproduce. So to reproduce, if there's something wrong, we have to do it all over again. It costs a lot of time. And our dashboards in Sales Cloud were rendering that took minutes to load, because of a lot of data. And now we are in Analytics Cloud, it takes seconds. So that's really a very big step forward. So we're saving a lot of time. We also have an example. So about all the Excel spreadsheets you want to export, we have, if you want to report on, we have complex questions sometimes, and then it takes a lot of time to assemble those reports. Then if you spend time setting a dashboard up, it costs a little bit of time, but then every time you need the data, it's there. Yeah, click the button, it's there. So it opens up a whole world of new analytics and new perspectives.
That's great. And I think in the process of going through this journey, you've had several different specialist partners engaged on the Sales and Marketing Cloud. But for this analytics and data and autonomous database deployment, you probably took a slightly different approach. You had Oracle Consulting leading a lot of that, but working closely with your own teams, although of course we've been working through lockdown, so not that close. So how have you found this experience?
I think it was a great experience. So working with Oracle, that's a big organization. So if you have a question, there's also an expert to be found that can answer your question. They are, of course, up to date the knowledge. And also they can share best practices of their experience with other customers. So that was a great experience.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. And I think it's probably fair to say that maybe we've changed the way that we approach data management and analytics implementations, as we now have the capability to get meaningful insights to the hands of users within a week or two, and iterate quickly from there. And probably quite along the line of what you were saying, Nancy, about building up your own teams of specialists to help drive things. We took the approach with this sprint-based delivery, but we did a lot of knowledge transfer and skilling up to enable Aon to accelerate the development of the further content yourselves. And I know you had a lot of users with experience in other analytics tool sets. How have they found that transition from those tools to Oracle Analytics? And what would you say to others who are perhaps reticent to move away from incumbent tools?
So if you show people the tool for the first time, they are immediately attracted to what it looks like. And if you then show drag and drop, and it's fairly easy to use when you start with it. You can even upload your own Excel spreadsheet and do fantastic visualizations with it. So it's modern, it's sleek, it has all the visualizations you want. So to start off with that, it's fairly easy. But because when Aon we were all new to the tool, we started a community to build a community across people who are working on different visualizations, to talk about development, to share best practice, with tips and tricks. So we share all that, and we also have some more advanced users who are going to train up new starters. And I have to say we have discovered some new talents around the space. So it's a good opportunity for all of them. So people who are reluctant to do the transition, the tool and how it's how I can see people are adopted to it, that should not be a reason not to do it. I think you have to just balance, the benefits of your current tool against the new tool.
Great. It's really good to hear how I suppose you're collaborating really well as a business now around the new tool sets as well. Thanks. Well, now perhaps maybe back to you, Tiffany. I mean, outside of having the teams be more efficient, maybe are there any other benefits to these solutions that you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, I think having our customer data management and our CRM tool from the same vendor is helpful. No tool's perfect, but having Oracle teams available to us on both sides of that to help troubleshoot those issues and how to make those two systems work together. Again, the CDM tool, the customer data management tools, where we're managing and mastering all of our accounts, that has been a good thing. OAC, of course, you've heard us say. Of course, Eloqua, we've been an Eloqua customer for over 18 years, I think. Eloqua's always been a strong tool set. From the Engagement Cloud sales perspective, I think what surprised me, or what's been a pleasant surprise, is that there's so much additional automation that we can now do. So we are currently piloting the contracts module, the client contracts module, which launches straight out of an opportunity. We are going to look at incentive compensation. We're looking at forecasting. These are all tools that would be an amazing step forward in the automation of sales process that are mostly now being done on spreadsheets by a large group of people. So we're looking at the automation that the Oracle suite provides.
Great, thanks, Stephanie. So maybe let's take a little break now. We've gone through a lot of questions there. Let's maybe go to our second poll question for the day. So when considering analytic solutions, which is the most important area that you are investing in? And this is to the audience, to drive your transformations. There's choices here like data preparation, visualization, perhaps more traditional enterprise reporting, maybe the more modern augmented analytics, and even to natural language processing and generation. Okay, and the results are in. And yeah, okay, so data preparation this definitely does take a lot of effort. I think we've seen this in all our projects. You can't forget about the effort and time it takes to get your data right, as indeed you said, Elizabeth, as part of this. And then visualization of that to your audience is really important. Okay, so I think that's great. Thanks very much for the details on the analytics journey. Maybe let's transition over and talk to Nancy a little bit about the marketing side. So now I think Aon's CX transformation was recognized last year actually during the Oracle Marquee Awards. You got the Thinker Award for Best Innovation in Sales. And once again, you are an award finalist this year, but in 3 categories this time. So congratulations and good luck. And I'm sure you're excited as we are and have already saved the date next week for the announcement of these awards. Well, we've spoken quite a bit today about the sales and analytics. Maybe Nancy, can you provide some insight about how Aon is driving personalized marketing through your B2B channels and where it fits with the overall digital transformation?
Yeah, so one of the key goals that we had was, helping sales, and one of the key challenges that we had was creating truly valuable content that, people around the world not only want to hear from us, but they also need to hear from us. So for a recent campaign, our marketing team produced a number of high quality materials, including video content, articles, reports, on key global issues that leaders are facing today. And the campaign included a country activation kit to guide regional teams for consistent implementation. So while, you know, we had a global activation kit, we also wanted to allow local countries for translation, localization to suit the purpose for each region. So this marketing program has created better alignment amongst sales and marketing teams. They work together on it, and they can now utilize the toolkits and the playbooks for future campaigns too. That has been very successful. It also led to approximately 1,500 sales accepted leads for highly influential contacts around the world. And it's a great example of how our integrated strategy and approach, in this case using Eloqua, is actually driving value for our business.
Fantastic, that's great. I mean, you've done a great job of combining the sales process, the pipeline, and the Eloqua marketing data into your analytics cloud. Why is it important for Aon to synergize the sales and marketing data, and how has this visualizing this data helped drive the future direction of your sales and marketing strategy?
Yeah, there's a couple of things there, because, you know, Tiffany highlighted that earlier. Like, we had a number of tools that we migrated into Eloqua, and before we were in one tool, there were, you know, a number of tools where people did what you do in those tools. So they built their own campaigns, their own scoring models, and they pushed those leads that came out of those systems to sales. And it wasn't very, you know, there weren't very valuable leads for the business, and there were multiple leads coming in on, you know, one contact. And with our migration, we were transforming that whole lead management bit too. So we've been working very closely with Oracle and with one of our business partners, and actually with the business itself. So, and we decided to go back from approximately 30, you know, separate scoring models to, we now have 6 scoring models. And from there, we have, you know, straight to go leads where people just raise their hands and say, I want to talk to you now. They go directly into our CRM tool, and you know, the business can pick them up from there. So no manual creation of those leads need to happen there. We also have like 6 scoring models, and they just continuously score those people. And once they hit a certain threshold, it will then send them automatically over to our CRM tool. And that was very impactful to our business. So sales is accepting a lot more of our leads, which has created about 58% of marketing leads are being accepted by sales.
That's great. Now, I mean, you're doing something that probably most marketers have been trying to do for years, and determining the amount of revenue and sales opportunities that are actually being created by the marketing division. How do you see this changing the way that you perform sales and marketing initiatives going forwards?
Yeah, I think we're not so much focusing anymore on, you know, what has been created by marketing. We're much more focusing on, you know, what is marketing actually influencing. We are in this together, and, you know, coming back to what Tiffany highlighted earlier on too, like, we are a united team. Sales and marketing needs to work together. We are doing this together. We are in this together. So it's not so much more important, you know, what marketing created. It's much more important, you know, how we influence each other and how we get there with the insights that Lisbeth is actually providing with dashboards that she's building. We are able to show exactly how much, you know, opportunities do we touch, how much leads, how much contacts, how much accounts do we touch. And being able to see that from an account level or a country level is just adding so much more value to, you know, and it's opening up so much more conversation. It's something that we've never been able to do before. So that's really, really, you know, valuable for both sides, so marketing and sales.
That's great. That's great. Now, I think we're kind of time is running away from us, I think, at the moment. So maybe let's jump. Maybe Tiffany, have you got what can you say about maybe Aon's strategic goals over the next couple of years? leaders? And maybe how is Oracle working with Aon to help you reach those goals?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a continuation of what we are doing. It's continuing to mature ourselves up the sales maturity model and marketing and everything in between. I mean, obviously everyone is focused on growth, and these times are challenging, and so it's trying to figure out how to be as nimble as a firm as possible to react to these challenges. Without missing a beat. And again, when you've got all your information in one place, it really supports your ability to do that. So it's a little bit more of the same in terms of we are just going to keep plowing forward in and up our maturity chain, more automation, more integrations downstream, because now that we have mastery of data, we need to feed that data to our downstream systems, because then we are truly connected. And then when you're able to do that, then you can seriously push a button and see, every transaction that is related to a client, starting from the CRM space all the way down. So that is where we're heading next, as well as those other automated automation efforts that I spoke about earlier.
Great. Well, I mean, this has been such a vibrant discussion, and if I may say, it's really welcome to have three compelling female leaders from Aon join us for this transformational discussion. Perhaps what advice have you got for the next generation of rising female leaders out there?
I can start. For females or males, for everyone, I mean, it's not always easy. You will find yourself in situations with people that may not see your value or think like you do, or treat you as you should be treated. My advice, and the advice that I've used throughout my career, is to find your safe space and to find your mentors. And these don't need to be always senior people that are mentoring, that they need to be people that you can go to and talk to about things that are happening around you. I was lucky enough early in my career to have a great female mentor who walked me through and guided me through a lot of difficult situations. And then it was closely followed by an amazing male mentor who believed in me more than I believed in myself. So I really think it's important to surround yourself with good people who support you, you can talk to, you can vent with, but you can talk through these issues and help get and identify ways of dealing, ways of resolving an issue or a situation, but we've got to lean on each other. And my other point would be to all of you managers and leaders out there, make time to be that person for the next wave of leaders, male and female. Elizabeth and Nancy, anything to add?
No, we all need a sponsor. I think that's what we. Yeah.
No, I mean, the only thing I would like to say is, it's really important you do what you really like to do. And so if you do that, generally like 80%, 90%, of your job, then, that's the most important thing in the end, that you do what you really like. And I totally agree with Tiffany. For those leaders and managers out there, like, make the time to help your people get where they want to go, and for those people where you see potential, like, push them up a little bit. They might not always know it from themselves.
That's great, thank you. Right, well, let's maybe go to give our audience a bit of a chance now, and I think we've got some questions. I can see we've got some questions in from the audience, so let's see if we can get through some of these. Maybe as a first one here, what KPIs or key metrics do you track to know if your business transformation is working?
I'll take that. We look at revenue growth. This is all about coming together as a firm to sell better, to be a better company, to provide better service. So we look at revenue growth, and in doing so, we look at pipeline, we look at number of leads and value of leads, number of opportunities, value of opportunities, our open pipeline. the number of deals that are going, or renewals that are in jeopardy. Those are what we focus on primarily. Of course, there's, probably 20 other indicators that we're looking at all times. But then the other thing that Nancy touched on, we're also looking at the ROI and the influence of marketing on those, especially on those leads. So primarily it's revenue growth.
Fantastic.
And cross-selling, I should say that too. How are we coming together? We're definitely measuring how we're coming together to sell together as well. So, and very specifically, like how many products are on that opportunity and do they cross solution lines? That's kind of us getting up our own maturity curve there.
All that collaboration and Aon United, isn't it?
Yeah.
So maybe next question, what was the biggest technical lesson that you learned from these implementations?
Well, nothing is as easy as it should be, first. Reduce scope, keep it simple. Start small if you can. But I mean, that was from the big CRM overview. From Lisbeth and Nancy's perspective, they may have a slightly different view on that, although I'm pretty sure they both agree nothing is as easy as it should be. And get good advisors. Make sure you are surrounding yourself with people who know what they're doing, with experts. Because we didn't know any of these technologies. We couldn't rely on ourselves. So it was very important. And to your point, Chris, earlier, Oracle has been an amazing partner in the OAC space. You have gotten us up that learning curve so quickly. That is very important. And I think every company needs that support behind them.
Great, glad to hear it's been helpful. So how do you evaluate what new information to deliver to your users?
Well, they yell, they ask. So I'd say that's twofold. First of all, they tell us. But secondly, we've got great DNA people, data and analytics people that are looking around and saying, we should know this. Like, we should be combining this data and this data to learn something, to gain insight. So it's a two-way street for sure. And then, the other thing is we ask them, what would you like to know? What information do you not have that you would need? So I think it's kind of definitely a big conversation. But I'd say they tell us but we still ask, and then we also come up with our own ideas, and we push those out as well.
Well, I'm probably perhaps related to that last one, maybe how quickly are you releasing new insights?
As fast as we can. We have a small but mighty team. Lisbeth never sleeps. And it's as fast as we can. I mean, we're doing new releases. Well, we're building pretty fast and furious right now, but we just had 2 huge data sets get released even this week. So, every 30 days, we are releasing something major. Now that's going to slow down, obviously, because we're in our growth point here. But right now we are in build mode and get this stuff out there.
Okay, well, there's only a couple left here. So let's see. Next one is, how fast is your user base growing? Where do you see this in 12 months?
Well, we do have parts of our company that are not yet on our CRM tool, so that would grow our OAC presence as well. So that there's one particular business unit that we would look to get into. We also have some activity in the market that may increase our user base substantially, but way too early to tell that. So we see ourselves in 12 months, probably similar to where we are now, but a little bit of growth, probably 10 or 15% growth in our user base. But in terms of the analytics, that will grow exponentially, because once people get a hold of this, they're going to want more. So I anticipate when people get their hands on the amazing data that's being provided, we are going to see enormous demand, and we already are.
Yeah, I want to add to that. I think Sales Cloud is fairly stable, and so we are in Analytics Cloud. We are up to almost 600 users now. So there are 3 other dashboards going live next week. Most of those users are the same, but say an additional 100. But maybe in a year that will be double. So that's fast growing. Yeah.
Great. Wow. Well, I think between us online and our supporters beavering away in the background, I think we've gone through all the open questions. So and we're at time as well to look at that. So I mean, thank you so much, ladies. Thank you so much to the audience as well for joining. I think we built a great community. Let's stay connected. We'll keep you informed of more community-based thought leadership like this. It's been an amazing conversation. If you'd like to follow up and learn more, please email the Customer Spotlight series _US at oracle.com. It's up there. And we can help you get connected if need be. Now, there'll be a quick single question survey as we close out of Zoom. Just give us some feedback, that'll be great. And please tune in for the next ones. The next one is on August the 13th, featuring Hearst. There are content and experience business, brands like Elle, Cosmo, Esquire, Men's Health, and indeed Women's Health. And on that note, it's a fitting point to wish everyone good health. Stay safe, everyone. Thank you.